It's up. Just jump in.
or a three belt unification for reestablishing full lineage between Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua?
I don't know, man. I don't know.
Hold on. What'd you say though?
What figure? Undisputed or Anthony Joshua versus Fury?
By money wise, it's Joshua Fury, but you're talking full belt undisputed. That's important too, and that's something that I want to see. I said this long ago. I don't give a fuck if it was Wilder, Joshua, Fury, Dillian White. I want to see full belt undisputed. So if you're asking what's more important to me, full belt undisputed. I don't give a shit about anybody's money.
I'm not talking about money. I'm talking about in terms of the fight itself. Like, for example, if Joshua were to fight Usyk, and let's say he lost, and Usyk went and fought.
Hey, y'all boys switch over because they starting to populate now.
As the fight between Fury and AJ.
Y'all,
it's just.
Hey, y'all boys switch over because they starting to populate in the chat now.
Okay.
All right. My bad, yo. I ended the live on accident. I had to switch over because my fucking tablet was dying and shit. So I jumped on my phone and I ended up killing the whole motherfucking live. Cheers, biz, salute. DT3, STC, George the Doomslayer, Toby B. My guys. All right, let me get the boys this link real quick. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Okay. I be forgetting how to do this shit sometimes. Like I be retarded. Okay, I got it. It's in there. It's in there. We back. Back to the conversation. Yeah, man, motherfucker got a name called Leonard Ellaby Knows. That shit is super classic, man. I was thinking about like having like this phantom name where I could just show up in people boxing chats and troll and shit. Like my name was gonna be Crack Pipe. Like straight like that. I was gonna change my name to Crack Pipe. And just start trolling with the nickname Crack Pipe.
What it is, Mike?
What up, man? Yeah, man. I had to make sure the boys got dialed back into the conversation. It was too good to be backdoored. I feel like the people need to hear this. The people got to be ready to the bullshit.
Yeah, man. We got to get D Jeff back in because.
Oh yeah, there he is. There he is. Got him. Got him.
All right. Since we weren't live, but I asked my question, right? So, in terms of what do you guys think would be a bigger fight, right? So, if let's say Joshua vacates this WBO and he fights Tyson Fury in a three belt unification, right? Which fight's bigger, Joshua versus Fury, or Fury? Let's say Joshua lost to Usyk if he decided to fight him because he didn't vacate the belt, and Usyk beat Joshua. So Usyk versus Fury for four belt undisputed, or Joshua versus Fury for a three belt unification plus full established lineal. Which is the biggest fight?
I can answer it off the break. It would have to be Joshua versus Fury for the unification and lineal. I'm just saying that because of this. Because people all around the world, not in just one section of the world, can translate Anthony Joshua and can translate Tyson Fury on a fucking cataclysmic scale. When it comes to Alexander Usyk, I feel like his shit smolders. You know what I'm saying? When it comes to his recognition, he's a smolder. These boys are a fucking 10-foot fucking fire that you can see fucking a couple miles up the street. Like it's just different. I just feel like they resonate with like boxing is supposed to have personalities. Usyk is definitely a personality, but Usyk is still translating, the English language as well. Those gentlemen have personalities. Anthony Joshua just got this fucking he's got his personality his own way. But when you combine what both of those gentlemen do, whether they're inside the ring or outside of the ring, it just generates fandom, man. I just feel like, even with the prestige of four belts or whatever, who are the four belts attached to? Because we know who the two kings are. Before it was the three-headed dragon. Now it's the two-headed monster. That's just how I feel.
I mean, I've kind of like said this even before the second Wilder Fury fight. You know, I said that the potential of a fight between Joshua and Fury would be bigger than actually Wilder versus Joshua in any venue, because you would just have two, like you said, two big personalities, two guys that would show as being the guys that are the top in the heavyweight division, and they would both come from the UK. And the thing about it was not only the thing about undisputed. I know that there was that one thing about Anthony Joshua, but there was another part too, and that was he wanted to see if he could have the undisputed heavyweight title fight in the UK.
Hmm.
And given this current situation, that is really like a very slim chance that it's going to happen.
With the
So at least,
BBBFC and shit. Yeah.
well,
Yes.
all of that, yeah. And and the thing is like they're trying to slowly get fights back into the UK, but not anything of that magnitude. So,
Like they
uh,
keep flip flopping. I cut you off. They just keep flip flopping, going back and forth. With like, are they going to shut it down? Are they going to open it up? Like,
yeah. Because like what it was about like 2 or 3 weeks ago, like they had that shutdown, and then everything that they were planning was going to be cut, and now we're on the verge of having like Povetkin versus White 2 being announced, and all other type of stuff going on. But
Hmm.
something of this magnitude, they can't really fit or have a venue to like have all those people attend there in the UK. So they're looking elsewhere to have it. And given the site fees that they could pull for this fight, hey, they are going to be making
they gonna be,
huge
they
money.
gonna be somewhere in the sand, huh, man?
Like they're going to be in the sand, deep,
Yeah,
deep in the
man.
sand if need be.
Resurrecting boxing rings in the sand and shit. Hey,
Yeah,
but
man.
that's and see, this is the thing, right? Like I said this shit, and I'm going to stand on it. And if I'm fucking wrong, I'm wrong. I truly see this fight fucking rivaling the fucking money, and if not toppling the money that Manny Pacquiao and Floyd Mayweather made in their bout.
Mm.
I really see that happening. Like this is fucking like Manny Pacquiao and Floyd was something that everybody was clamoring for that came fucking about 4 or 5 years fucking too late. Anthony Joshua and Tyson Fury is coming at the right fucking time when both men are in their fucking prime. And once again, it's in
Yes.
that dazzling heavyweight division, man. It has all of the ingredients to be the biggest thing the world has seen in a fucking long time when it comes from two men standing in that fucking ring, man.
Oh
Hmm.
yeah. You can't
And
you can't lose this opportunity to make a fight of this magnitude when
Mm-mm.
you have two guys at the top of their game right now. You just can't
You'd
do
be a fucking fool. You'd be a fool to do it. This is something that's why Bob Arum, behind the scenes, it's a lot of quiet. They're really quiet right now, but that's because they pushing hard to get it done. And it just shows you through how quiet it is, how easy it is for them boys to get it done. It's not hard. We already agree on the 50-50. I think more importantly, probably the hardest thing is figuring out venue and trying to get the most fans as you possibly can in it,
yes.
because there are
that.
plenty of fucking sites on the table right now. The thing is, it's like, where can we maximize and optimize, our level of fans and our viewership for our fans?
100%. And like, let me just say something, right? Undisputed to me is very important, and it's a great accomplishment and everything, right? And when I say biggest fight, I'm not even talking in terms of finance or anything. I'm just talking huge, right? Just like mega, mega fights. So let's take, for example, I'm going to compare two things because these things, they're comparable, right? So an undisputed fight versus a non undisputed fight, right? So I'm going to ask you guys. Mike Tyson and Tony Tucker, pretty big fight, right? Pretty big fight at
Mm-hmm.
the time. It was for the three belt undisputed title. Let's scratch lineal for a second, and OJR will bring that up. Mike Tyson was considered lineal, right?
Mhm.
Not lineal. He was considered undisputed after he beat Tony Tucker. Pretty big fight, right? Muhammad Ali and Joe Frazier too. Them two men fought for the NABF title in a rematch. It
You breaking up, Mark?
wasn't an
Yeah.
undisputed fight. It wasn't a world title. It was an NABF.
Mark, you there?
Yeah, he's breaking up, man.
Yo, hold on. What was the
Yeah.
last thing you heard?
You started to say the NABF title, and then everything went chop after that.
Hello?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you. What's the last thing
Yeah, I
y'all
said
heard?
you started to say the NABF title, and then everything went chop after that.
Yeah, so Muhammad Ali and Joe Frazier too was for the NABF title. So I'll ask you gentlemen this. Which fight was bigger? Mike Tyson versus Tony Tucker for the undisputed title, or Muhammad Ali versus Joe fucking Frazier too for the NABF? What was bigger?
Fraser Ali too.
By how much? By how much?
By a fucking country mile.
Because it was two of the biggest names in boxing by far during that period. That is the thing about this. The most iconic fights, it's not about the belts. You can have the most iconic. You see, that's the difference between undisputed and iconic. Iconic is something that is a moment in time that very rarely brings itself. Undisputed, whilst it's a rare commodity, most people in the world don't even know what the fuck undisputed means. Mostly, it's just
Yeah,
boxing. And that is
like
true.
Yeah,
That is genuinely
that's
true.
very true.
But like 72 years from now, let's nobody's gonna be like, yo, do you remember when blah 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 became the undisputed champion? No, but they would be going 72 years from now. Yo, do you remember when fucking Anthony Joshua and Tyson Fury fought? Just like people, right? Just like people. What is it? 46 years later, still talk about Muhammad Ali, Joe Frazier.
Absolutely.
yep.
Absolutely. It's one of those things, like I said, it's one of those things that's going to define the era in boxing, and how it happens and when it happens is going to define the history, and it's going to impact the legacy that this fucking era in boxing leads, because this is the thing. And I've said this before, you know, vaguely, but I've always said that boxing right now is at a point to where it could be really restored back to its greatest form and its purest form. Because if you look around and you landscape all of the fucking divisions and all of the talent surrounding those divisions, you can't tell me there's not enough talent to where it'll breed those fans rushing in. It's just that motherfuckers aren't doing what they're supposed to do. So I feel like a fight like of this magnitude needs to happen just to fucking save this era of boxing, because nothing that has come before it has been able to do so and has been able to transcend the sport the way this has, or the way Anthony Joshua has in a long time. So this needs to happen. It has to happen. And people need to follow suit and look at everything that's going on around it and really have a realistic fucking reality check and say, man, what the fuck are we doing? Those guys just made how many fucking millions of dollars? They just fought where? They just did what? And we're not doing anything of the sort. So I feel like it is on Tyson Fury and on Anthony Joshua to save this fucking era of fucking boxing. Like truthfully. Like this is the fight that's gonna define how, when we look in the future, how people feel about feel about the sport. Honestly, that's how I feel.
Yeah, that's the thing, man. You talk about undisputed, like people. I mean, people will like kind of recognize like who is undisputed, but do they actually like say, okay, what was the fight that made it undisputed, or who did that person beat to become undisputed? Like you got to have two guys that are big enough to build the fight for it to actually have some staying power. Like people ain't gonna say that Terrence Crawford being the undisputed champ at 140 is if that's gonna have any staying power because of the guy that he fought to become undisputed. You know,
Julius and
um,
Dongo.
yeah, and
Mhm.
Dongo. So anyone talking about Julius and Dongo now? No, not really, because he was just somebody that, even though he unified, but he still, hasn't done anything after that. he basically didn't he get washed by
He just got beat up, I think, like 2 weeks ago.
yeah 2 weeks
Yeah,
ago.
hold up. That year, Yeli Usanov
Yeah,
can
you
destroy
Usnov.
him though.
Yeah.
Destroyed him.
Yeah. So you have that, or maybe to a certain extent what Alexander Usyk did, but it wasn't like any fight that had a build up. Like, oh my goodness, I should not be missing this fight, regardless if I could be there live or watch it. Like neither fights that we mentioned kind of like gave that type of vibe across any, world stage or anything like that. This fight between Anthony Joshua and Tyson Fury has that. It has those elements that they could
Absolutely.
basically have the world watching to say, okay, this is the winner of this is the heavyweight champion of the world. Like they could potentially be there where, like you say, like the heavyweight champion of the world meant something, like a Muhammad Ali, like a Joe Louis, or like Mike Tyson or something like that. It would have that same type of weight now if they were able to make this fight for the undisputed heavyweight championship.
Yeah, and to be perfectly honest, and I'm speaking selfishly for me, I need this motherfucking fight to happen so I can sit up there and say, yo, like when I identify with a fucking champion or I identify with a fucking fight in the heavyweight division, when you're talking about two of the best, I can look at two of those individuals and I can say this was fucking real. Because I've watched a lot of people fucking win belts and shit like that, where I could say, I don't know if this is fucking real. Like, I know this ain't real. I'm looking at who you're fighting. I'm looking at what fucking the promotional outfits and shit put together just to throw this bullshit out there. That's not real. But when it comes to the shit that's real in the sport, which is very fucking rare, this is the shit that makes me fucking proud to point that shit out, to be like, yo, this was a moment in fucking time that I resonated in, and that I can honestly say that I got to see a fucking great fucking once in a lifetime boxing match. People right now can't even say that they've seen a once in a lifetime boxing match in this era.
Yeah.
Like you could say, I watched Baranchik versus Peta. Who are they? The casuals. You know what I'm saying? Like you can say that you've seen a lot of great fights. Shit, I could even go lower than that. I could say I watched fucking Selecki versus Rosado.
What a war that was.
Man, I was there live, man. That was great. That was great.
Facts. And motherfuckers wouldn't have an idea. And that's the difference.
To be fair to hands though, like what you just said about the once in a lifetime fight, like honestly, both of them would be. Because 4-belt undisputed, we've been waiting 21, 22 fucking years for a 4-belt undisputed fight at heavyweight. What's the chance that we'll get it twice in our life fucking time? With all the politics getting worse and worse. So if you think about it, both of them would be a once in a lifetime fight. Yeah, to see Joshua and Fury go at it, but then to see a champion get 4-belt undisputed. They kind of both once in a lifetime fights.
Right, but it's just when we're speaking in the sense of if it was Alexander Usyk and one of those guys going for fucking undisputed compared to Anthony Joshua and Tyson Fury fighting for unified lineal fucking titles, it's just the impact of who the individual is. It doesn't have that same impact when you say Alexander Usyk next to one of those guys compared to saying Tyson Fury next to Anthony Joshua, because we already know who the two are. So even with that one thing amiss, I feel like if either way it happens, of course we want all four attached to it. But in my mind, the way I feel right now, Usyk is a fucking mirage to this whole situation. He's just something that I'm fucking talking about, but it's something that I can never fucking envision fucking like saying that, like, yo, this is the thing that I want to see. Because to be perfectly honest, nobody wants to see fucking Alexander Usyk do battle with Anthony Joshua or Tyson Fury. And for those that do, not when it comes to these belts in this situation, but if they fucking do, there's nothing wrong with that. But I just think that people would prefer to see it on the back end. And this right now is that thing that we really need to see. That's just how I feel about it.
Yeah, definitely feel you on that, man. Like the time is now for this. You can't have this slip. So why, try to just let this go because you want to have a WBO mandatory, basically happen. And I know that, the thing with Usyk on him saying basically, oh, we'll just, let Joshua have the IBF mandatory and then we'll be next. But listen, you could basically sit out and then wait for, the undisputed heavyweight titles fight to happen. And then once you do get that fight, you basically get a higher guarantee.
And you get them all. If you win,
Yeah,
you
if you
got
win,
the
you get them
keys to the
all.
palace. You know what I mean? Like, I don't
And
even
you and
understand
yeah,
it.
and the thing too is like, you mean to tell me that either you could take your risk now and you lose and you don't have that chance, or you could just say wait it out, have the guys fight themselves out for the undisputed heavyweight championship, and then you come in and say, hey, I have the shot to be a two division undisputed world champion after I beat the winner of Fury versus Joshua, and you would be the we got without a doubt number one heavyweight in the world if you do that.
Absolutely. That's why for me it makes absolutely no sense for him to be trying to enforce a mandatory right now when it's just like fuck. It's kind of like, I don't know if you guys, it's an old movie with fucking Robert Duvall and Sean Penn. It's called Colors and shit. And these dudes are fucking police officers and they in California and shit and they fighting off the gang violence and all of that shit in the fucking neighborhoods. Well, they're sitting at the top of the hill and they talking about making arrests. Well, they saying, there's a whole bunch of cows laying down in the field and you're a fucking wolf sitting at the top of the hill. Do you rush down and do you run down and get one cow? It's like, oh yeah, you run down and get one cow. He's like, no, you walk down and you fuck them all. So for me, I feel like Usyk shouldn't try to run after fucking one piece of fucking cow. You should walk down and fuck them all. And I'm talking about all the belts. So you going after some short term shit? Nah, fuck that. Wait one fight and get the
Well,
long term shit. I don't
well,
get it.
here's the thing. Here's the thing, right? I understand what Usyk is doing. And I do understand it because Usyk is in a very strong position of power, whether
True.
people want to admit that or not, because he can demand any amount of money he wants to step aside. If he doesn't, right, either Joshua has to fight him, and then he gets the Anthony Joshua fight, right? And then he can, if he were to win that, he can go in for an undisputed fight with Fury. And if Joshua doesn't fight and doesn't do the step aside, he has an easier shot to become a two-weight world champion. So either way, it works out for Usyk.
Oh, of course. Of course. It's just like for me, I don't know. I just try to, it does. It works off on me either way. But for me, I just try to use my logic, and when I think of things, I try to think of what's the most fruitful situation for me. And to be perfectly honest, I just feel like shit. It's one, two fights, and I could keep fucking busy, and then I could fucking demand one of the biggest purses in boxing.
But not
That ain't why
necessarily,
taking a
because
step aside.
even if he's the mandatory, right? So let's say he decides, right, you know what, I'll step aside, y'all can pay me, right? And they fight. And what happens if the winner then vacates that belt in the mandatory situation?
Yeah, but I try. I
Then he's
swear.
in the original situation he was at the start, just with a little bit more money.
Yeah, but it's like Mark right now. Do you really see fucking one of those guys vacating after fucking winning undisputed? Let's just say if Anthony Joshua wins undisputed right now, do you
I could
true?
see Tyson Fury retiring.
Oh, you get that.
Oh
See, in
yeah,
that
that
regard,
could
if
be, yeah.
Tyson Fury wins, oh, I'm 1,000% with you. Yeah, who
So,
knows what
so that's the
could
thing.
happen?
Usyk doesn't know. None of us know who's going to win. We can have our beliefs, but you can never predict at a
Right.
fight at that level, right? So
No.
he has to think what's best for him. So let's say he gets that WBO title, right? One way or another, or gets the fight with Joshua. If he gets the three belt fight with Joshua, that's great for him. Either way, he makes money. But if he gets that WBO title, right, the reality of it is he can still fight Joshua then if Joshua were to win, which would be the same scenario for an undisputed fight. Or he could fight Tyson Fury, or if Tyson Fury goes and vacates the belts and retires, Usyk can look for unifications either way. So he's in a strong position of power.
Yeah, he is. He is in a strong position of power. It's just like, man, like, I don't know. I always try to fucking Like, yeah, you do have to factor in the fucking what ifs. And when it comes to a fucking Tyson Fury who's never the fucking defended the title and Mister, I'll vacate on you in a half a fucking second. I guess you do have to weigh out your options and feel like you might want to fucking pull the trigger a little bit quicker than a person who's sitting there looking at what's about to happen. So yeah, I definitely see why Usyk would look at it in that situation because it is we are dealing with Tyson Fury here. There's more than one person's integrity that's on the line here. So yeah, I could see that being a potential problem because Tyson Fury is a man of many antics. So
Yeah.
that's the way it is. And I guess on that note, we're gonna end this shit, man. So whoever want to start with the closing thoughts, let's get it.
I'll start with them because I was just listening. Y'all guys was cooking, but appreciate you, brother. I really mostly wanted to cook on. I really mostly wanted to cook on the Teofimo Lopez thing. But appreciate you having me on, Mr. Two Hands.
Man, for sure, man.
Boxing Source. Catch up with you guys.
Take it easy. Thanks for having me on, Two Hands. Big up to you as well, JR. Big up to DJF. Everybody in the chat, shout out to you guys. Yo, if anybody wants to know one thing about this sport, just remember, this sport has always been built on iconic moments.
Absolutely.
And Anthony Joshua versus Tyson Fury, that is the winner of that, no matter what, will be an icon in the sport. Remember that. That will be your modern day icon. Take it easy, boys.
For sure. Take it easy, Mark.
All right. Yeah, peace to Mark, peace to D Jeff, peace to Two Hands. Thanks for taking the time here to talk boxing as always. Mr. Two Hands, Mr. The biggest Miguel Burchelt fan that I know in history. But but I mean, yeah, we talk about this thing here for Fury versus Joshua, and I've kind of like said it for a while now. I thought it would be like the biggest heavyweight fight that we've seen in almost 3 decades plus, and like Mark said, like the winner of that fight would be an icon in the sport of boxing forever. So you just can't miss that chance to go ahead and make this particular fight. So, and the thing is, it's like for legacy, and I think that both fighters know that that is the fight to define their legacy in the sport of boxing. Whatever they do afterwards is pretty much predicated on that particular fight. So you gotta go ahead and get it, make it happen, and we gotta see it this year because it would be the biggest fight in the sport without question, with two guys at the top of their games, not two guys that are 5 years or 6 years past their primes. So you gotta get it right here and right now. And that's what I got, man. Peace out, Two Hands, and everybody that joined in.
For sure, Boxing Source, appreciate you coming through. Hey, man. Hey, look, man. And that's what it's about, man. It's about legacy, man. And it's about, coming in this thing the right way and leaving it the right way too, man. Like I just think that Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua isn't just the biggest thing; it's the only thing that in 2021 that makes absolute sense, other than Bud Crawford and Errol Spence. But we having absolute headaches with that. But Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua need to make this happen. They're gonna leave their footprints in the sand of greatness, and that's what this sport is all about. Mano y mano, and all honesty is bared in the ring. So, as we always do at this time, appreciate the chat coming through. This is Reaper Gang Radio, Volume 7. I think we, discussed everything we need to discuss. As we always say at the end of this shit, it costs you nothing to pay a nigga no mind. Man, respect to the whole chat and respect to the playback game. We're going to be at this shit again. Video coming soon. Respect, though. It's the motherfucking boss.